Or perhaps you finally recognized that needling and criticism, whether you give it or get it, is extraordinarily stifling. To me, there's no such thing as constructive criticism to begin with. So you could see that time was a very interesting portal. And every eclipse is a course corrector. It means you have to change something in your life. And P.S., only you can change something in your life. This is a free will planet. I can't change you. I can't fix you. And boy, was that a good thing to let go of. That kind of happened a few years ago. It's not my job to fix you. It's my job to share information. You take from that what applies, what works for you, what feels right. And incidentally, with information like someone like myself delivers, what doesn't feel right this moment may feel right next week, next month, next year. I've had people, I had someone, she's a niece of mine actually, lives up in the Northeast. Apparently, now this would truly go back 40 years ago. Can't be that long. 30 years ago. I must have done some sort of astrology reading for this lovely young woman. And at the time, I said to her, she had just graduated from the police academy, hell-bent on being a policewoman, and she did it very well. But at that time, I must have said to her, oh, but your career eventually will be in politics. Well, as the story goes, it seems she walked out of that consultation for many, many years. Every day said to herself, there's no way, she's wrong, that's not going to happen. Well, this darling young spirit called me a couple of weeks ago and said, I have to tell you something. And I'm like, okay. Because I don't keep in touch with her, so I couldn't imagine what the heck she had to tell me. She reminded me of the story that I had told her. Somehow she was going to be in politics. Well, about a month ago, she was appointed to be the first woman chief of police in the county that she's in. And she said, and the job is political. So it took her a good many years to figure out that maybe there's some truth in clean information that's coming at you. So don't discount it. Remember, you are enormously large in your energy field. And somewhere that piece that can't resonate this moment, this day, could resonate 30 years from now. So the eclipse that happened brought a lot more ability for you to be self-confident, self-aware, more conscious of your thoughts and your choices. Incidentally, that's called accountability and responsibility. So the next course corrector, or eclipse, actually came September 1st. It happened in the evening between the 30th and September 1st. Well, it was a new moon in Virgo. It was called a solar eclipse. And this eclipse is enormous because this eclipse, because it's connected with the mind, I must ask you or remind you that it's time for you to do a lot of mental mind cleaning and drop pretty much everything of what you've ever been taught, what you've ever believed. Pretty much of it's filled with disinformation. It's bogus. It doesn't serve you now. What served you even last month probably doesn't serve you now. So this particular eclipse was designed for you to become more discerning and discriminating about what you are allowing into your mind and your entire energy field. Along with that would go things like the media, the whole ruckus about anything political. You're not going to fix it. The choices are what they are. Your job is to fix and do you. And all of this has come during what some of you may know the term, a retrograde Mercury. So retrograde Mercury, and the retrograde Mercury itself is in Virgo. This has to do with, until September 22nd, really paying attention to what is disclosed and learning to trust your gut about it. If your gut is not aligned with what you're seeing and hearing, turn off what you're seeing and hearing and go take a walk. Go take a walk in the forest, take a walk around the block, take a walk at the beach, because you're correct and the information is not valid. Years ago, I lived in Jersey. I lived up in northern New Jersey, which is a bedroom community of Manhattan. So I was there for all of the hoopla around 9/11. Although I was out of the state at the exact time. And when I heard the information, I thought, there's something wrong. This is not correct information. I didn't know why. And I could not watch the television, would not watch the television. And now, of course, 15 years later, much is being disclosed that is not correct information. But you have to listen. You have to honor what you're hearing. You don't have to be out campaigning for anything, but you have to learn to discern and know the truth within yourself. This particular solar eclipse is triggering something that will occur in a few days from now on September 10th. The power and the force of that eclipse is going to be fully activated by that time. I have no idea what it is. Keep your antenna up, keep your feelers up, and pay attention. You may not like what you're hearing, but pay attention. You know, I suppose in the next 2 months, there will be a great deal of information given about extraterrestrial energies. Don't be so quick to disclose them, to discount them, and don't be so quick to be in fear. There is nothing to fear except what the media generates. At the end of this month, on September 26th, we've got something called Pluto, a planet which, of course, scientists have tried to discredit. It is an energy field. You can't discredit energy. But Pluto has been hanging out in Capricorn. And it's been hanging out in Capricorn for about 8 years now. And it's going to be going what we call in forward motion or direct. And Pluto actually rules the underworld of the subconscious. Pluto can be a very transformative energy or very destructive. And Pluto in Capricorn has to do with the government, our government, and the governments of the world. So it ought to be some very interesting times in September and October. Pluto is a power that is available not only to the government, but to large corporations and organizations, including the military-industrial complex, which all of these corporations and complexes have enormous leverage to control your destiny and my destiny. When this force is used positively, it represents the advancement of each and every member of society, all societies. When it's used negatively or destructively, it brings the downfall of humanity. And the downfall is simply caused by personal lust for power. I'm concerned for people of this world that we're on, that we're floating on together, because there's been a lack of interest. There has been so much information at cross purposes that nobody knows what's real anymore. Or so they say. If you take the time to be still, you darn well know what's real. One of the things I have it still pushes a button in me. I've really tried to get away from all buttons being pushed, because if it's a trigger point in me, or if it's a trigger point in you, it's simply something we have not resolved. But the trigger that gets pushed in me is when someone says to me, I don't know. I get really cuckoo. You do know. No, they insist. I don't know what to do. I don't know about that. Biggest thing is I don't know what to do. Well, it simply means they've boxed themselves into a corner and don't have the creativity, or they don't use the creativity, and perhaps they don't have the gumption, nor want to do the hard work of taking themselves out of their own corner. How could you not have the creativity if you are God in drag? How could you not have the gumption and the courage if you are God in drag? These are God qualities. It's not you. It's not the personality of you. It's the core essence of you. And that's what it's time to focus on. We're going to be so much happier. Geez, our life will be so much easier. And those that have held the puppet strings for so many eons, their time is up. They know it. It's okay. They actually did what they were sent to do. They held the space for a negative polarity. They held the space for fear. How are you going to learn fearlessness without confronting fear? How are you going to have a backbone if you have nothing to stand up to? If you haven't been a marshmallow, how do you get to have courage? It's just the yin and yang. So their cycle of yang has worn itself down. It actually occurred in 2012. They're aware of it. And so now, that's why those of us who have been studying, who have been contemplating, who have been doing the smallest steps to correct their life, that's why it's our time now to join together. You'll be stronger in a little community. Find a community. Come out of your closet and learn to give that hug and receive that hug. I don't know, I think it was a Gershwin tune, Embraceable You. Could be wrong. One of those wonderful classical songs, Embraceable You. You're it. Some of you, because I can feel it, probably are holding your breath. And maybe you've been holding your breath for a long, long time. Simple breathing exercises do wonders. It's time to breathe. And it's time to breathe into all of the things that you've allowed to hold you back. Nothing really holds us back except what we allow to hold us back. So we've participated in a lot of this by our lack of interest. Unfortunately for many, many Americans, and I have to point the finger at Americans because they've become couch potatoes. They've become lax, particularly lax in good nutrition. It's easier to go through a drive-through somewhere and shove down something that it fills a void, but there's not much nutrition in it. Therefore, not only did you not feed your body, you didn't feed your mind, you short-circuited your emotions, and then the connection with your higher self is weak to nil.